Pre-show banter commence, but it's not. It's only like what 3 minutes. Like the pre-show banter for the news is such a short thing.
Yeah, your 30 minutes of pre-show banter. That's when you really gotta like draw at straws, you know.
Yeah.
Someone's sawing the logs in half. Does that mean they're sleeping? This GIF, I don't. Is it a?
I think
is
it's
this
both.
a sock? Is this a sock GIF or is it like I'm sleeping?
It's a log cutter.
Yeah, I feel like if we, start the pre-show banter for the news too early, we'll just start talking about the news, and then we have to start the show
you don't want to
early.
get started too early.
No, we wouldn't ever do a podcast called Talking About the News.
No, not too soon, at least.
We would never do that.
No.
Talk amongst yourselves. So people
Talk. What? I thought that's what we were doing.
Pre-show
Right
banter is usually the news. Then for the news pre-show banter, we should just do a full webcast.
That's right. Let me get some slides out.
Yes. 5-minute fire talks.
5-minute
Whose
webcast.
slide
I love
is it
that.
anyway?
I'd like everyone. Ralph, no, anyone have anything to present in like 5 minutes or less?
5 minutes or less.
Hell yes.
Jay, go.
All right, go.
Wait, I have to right now? Okay, so, well, let me tell you all about how Kubernetes works, because
in 5
it is
minutes?
basically news. Yeah, fuck yeah. Actually, I had that one scripted. I came up with this idea called infosec 5, and it was basically a 5-minute, on a topic, 5 minutes, no more.
You think you
And
could
I made a
explain
Kubernetes
Kubernetes in 5 minutes?
Uh-huh.
Only using fun analogies.
Yes, please.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'll
Why
have
are
to...
you guys attacking him just because he's more skilled than the rest of us?
Oh!
I don't know. I feel like I got burned, but then I don't know. It's weird.
I think it's because of my microphone. I think everyone's still pissed about all the microphone pain I put it through. So fair enough. Yeah. So I do have I have to bring it up, but I have a script where
K8.
I've recorded Kubernetes super fast.
All right. No, K8s is too big.
Oh, wait, Ryan's back.
K3s.
You ran out of time. Ryan's already back. It turns out you only had 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Your intro took up 2 minutes so you only have 3 minutes now.
That would not be the first time this has happened.
Uh-oh, where's my camera?
There it is.
There it is. Wow.
I think you're mirrored, Jeff.
What does that
You
mean?
look mirrored to me.
I'm a mirror of myself.
No, he just rearranged his office.
Hey, JQ.
He took everything in the office and put it on the other side. That's what happened.
What you do to do Kubernetes in 8 minutes or 5 minutes is you just scale it to hearing 6 voices at once.
Oh, yes.
It's
And you
perfect.
can't use Helm charts.
It's concurrent processing.
I thought those voices were only in my head.
No, I only use K3s. I have never made it to K8.
Dude, K3s, Andrew was telling us last week they put it on cars. How terrifying is that?
Holy shit, no.
Yep.
Yeah, that is terrible.
I mean, you need those health checks. You never know.
Your car has to be able to scale to other cars, okay? Don't worry about it.
Yes, your car.
Yeah, we're adding
give its
nodes.
workord to other cars.
Have
you ever seen
Have we run the credits already? Have we run the
No, John.
No, we haven't done
if we
anything
were,
yet.
we'd actually be
This is the
doing the
pre-show.
podcast.
Oh, well, I mean, we just bullshit anyway.
No, I mean, we started the pre-show banter late, so now the show has to start late.
Maybe
You know
Have
the
any of you
rules.
read Daniel Suarez's Demon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Demon book? Yeah. So I'm remembering the kind of bad guy who he's got cars and then he's going and adding more cars to his whole thing, and he's directing all the cars to go kind of kill all the people or help him escape or whatever. I think the motorcycles kill all the people and the cars help
We've
him
seen
escape.
Mad Max. We know how adding cars together works. I'm just kidding.
I haven't
read this book, but now it's ruined.
I mean, Mad Max is more like, I don't know. It's not K8s. It's more like Docker.
Hey, Corey, you're freaking me out because you're reversed.
No, I'm not. I am?
I just reversed myself.
Your
Oh my
lights are on
God.
the other side.
I'm sorry, everyone. I was mirrored. That's the worst trick in the book.
Oh my gosh.
I did the old switcheroo.
Switcheroni.
Jeff was another brick in the wall.
Is mirrored a bad thing? I don't know.
Well, for your shirt, it's like kind of understandable either way, but sometimes the shirts are hard to read. And
No, this has to be not mirrored. So
What? Wait, why is that even a setting? Like, why would you want to mirror? Does anyone have a good
So
example?
it's because you see yourself as you would. It's like it's not.
okay.
It's like it's not actually. It doesn't really
Does,
make sense.
does it make me better looking?
No,
I'll mirror
no,
myself.
does not help with that at all.
Only to you. Only to you.
I'm a
It's
legend
only
in
mirrored
my
for
own
you.
mind.
We can probably roll it. Yeah,
Corey, Ralph, you ready?
I got it. Roll it.
You got it? All right.
All that beautiful bean footage.
Hello and welcome to Black Hills Information Security's Talking About the News. It's February 5th, 2024, and we're talking about all kinds of hacks. We got AnyDesk, we got Cloudflare, we got Docker hacks, so it should be a fun week. And we're all here, the whole squad.
The squad.
The squad.
Everyone that we invited was here except
I gotta
for
change
all the
the-
people that you wanted to be here. So we got Shecky, the old golden voice for radio, face for radio. Wait, no, that's mean. We got Penn, aka definitely not Cameron, definitely not a Black Hills Information Security employee based on the employee only shirt.
Your deductive reasoning is intense.
Well, I mean, is that a fake background though? Because it's so
It's so good.
fancy. It's so like.
Best green
Nice.
screen in the business.
It's totes legit.
I'm calling it fake. Is someone changing back there? What? No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
I just wanted to show off how healthy the houseplants are.
Those are doing
Oh, yeah, you can
great.
keep a plant alive. That's beautiful.
And I think both are non-toxic to cats, which is all I care about. We've got Jay from based on his slightly mirrored but still readable logo in Guardians.
So remember we talked about the mirroring thing? I think this is one of the examples where it
I
doesn't
think
work.
that's
Yeah.
naive.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
We've got
Oh.
other Jay.
Oh, there we go. Wow, he just
It's
changed.
Evil J and
Like
Good
that.
J.
Evil J.
Just like-
Yeah. Now the real question is, can you touch the Guardians logo on the first try without messing up?
Oh,
You got it. I say you got it.
For everyone listening, that was the best attempt I've ever seen to not get anywhere near it.
No, he picked the right side. I would have picked the wrong.
I picked
side.
the right side.
Yes.
I
You
cheated.
did
I
pick
kind
it.
of lifted my shoulder for a second to see if it was mirrored that way.
He
I was
got
like,
it.
huh,
He
okay.
got it. Well, welcome, Jay. We got Derek
Damn it!
from a dark room. Hacker, the most hacker looking, but also like musician hacker.
Yes. He's in a band.
He's gonna be slapping the bass halfway through the show, and just we'll look over.
Now I need to turn my background back off. So
Joff, were you like it? Were you supposed to be in like in a hostage situation? Like what was that?
That's right. They're holding me hostage. No, I just gotta put the
He's got the
musician
keys.
back.
Yeah.
I see.
The
Yeah.
keys.
He's
Between
the
Joff and Derek, we have a whole band. Should make them improvise something or sing the news.
piano.
That's what we should do for pre-show. Explain Kubernetes in 5 minutes with a musical backing track provided by audience members. And
I'm in. Not this time.
so we also have Mr. Ralph, aka Roadhouse.
Oh
who's
man,
not
the new
mirrored.
movie's coming out. If you haven't seen, it's going to be amazing.
Is that what is that like? Is that Texas Roadhouse? Are they
Yes.
doing a movie?
If you don't know, then you should go watch the movie.
All right.
I
Yes,
just wanna
BHIS
say-
talent show. We used to do a 24-hour webcast. We'll maybe get there someday.
It'll
Well,
come back.
I just want to say for the record though that my house plants are not nearly as nice looking as Penn's.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Facing window.
I can't even tell if your window's real, Joff. I'm not 100%.
It looks like a backdrop.
It's not.
So,
I'm not real.
Joff's not
The
real.
window's real, but what's behind the window is
we
not.
didn't.
How
have,
can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? All right. We've
That
got
house
Alex.
plant is. Those two house plants are alive.
That's true. They're alive.
That makes them different than mine.
Alex, whose whole wall is a house plant, and this is fine. It's all fine.
It's fine. I show up 3 deep. Yeah.
We've got Mr. Joff, who isn't real, and
I'm not
has
real.
he brought props though. Nope, he's hiding secret.
I'm
Those
hiding things.
Uploaded him.
Those are secret unreleased BHIS bobbleheads
right.
or something.
There.
Oh,
O days.
A wild strand.
we've got a wild strand squatch appears out
I
of the
think
woods.
it's dark strain.
Oh my God, John's here.
This is total AI. We're testing.
I went
it
to isjohnteaching.com and it said 404 not found, so I wasn't
I'm
sure.
working on that site right now. It's gonna work.
I can't believe that that's actually a thing. What the hell?
I gotta buy the domain. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
We just got through introductions, so now that John's here, Ryan's here, everyone's here, let's talk about Cloudflare. Has everyone read this? I, for the first time ever in news history, read this entire thing before the news.
What?
That's because he thought he was going to.
I apologize to all the other hosts. I apologize for doing that, but that means I'm volunteering to cover it. So basically, this all happened around November-ish 2023, so late last year. Essentially, there were authentication tokens originally compromised from the Okta compromise. Why they didn't reset them? Because they thought they were unused. They do a lot of, patting themselves on the back and dunking on other vendors, which seems like a weird vibe for your breach release. But essentially, they only services that were impacted on Cloudflare's side were their code repositories and their Atlassian stuff. So all their ticketing. They did go. They went into some really crazy detail on like the steps they took. And okay, there's a few like pieces that are really interesting. Number one, they say they performed forensic triage and reimaged all of their computers.
Yeah, and,
what?
And all is like 4,800
right
systems.
So
right?
What?
I know all of their computers. Can they find all of their computers?
So
well, they found 5,000 and they reimaged
If
them
they
all.
can't find it, they're not going to connect
I
anymore.
can make a case for you could successfully triage 4,800, collect data from and triage 4,800 computers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I can make a case for that.
I just have this vision of like, because CrowdStrike did the forensics work. Like if they did image all of those systems, CrowdStrike's like, yes.
No, but so
But CrowdStrike did this
thing,
one,
you don't
did they
image
do any
anymore. Now we gather what we want. So
what, they ran LS and then just like, that's good enough. Yeah.
DD
The other thing, okay, continuing on just ridiculous things they did. Number two, they released some of the metrics they have. They have 2 million Jira tickets. Like, what? I am sorry. Like, I feel
Are they all
bad
open? Are they closed or what? What kind of state?
Only half of those are open. They only have 1 million open Jira tickets.
They've got 2 people working tickets, and
Yes.
everybody else filing them.
That is their like plot in life, literally.
Yeah, and so essentially, for those that it was actually interesting. The attackers used they're attributing it to a nation state, but then the attackers used like Sliver. Like I'm like, really? Like nation states
Open
are just
source.
using.
There's no what do you call it? Connection to their APT.
Yeah, I guess. So
I do love it how whenever a tool like Sliver or something's used, they're like, well, it can't be the Russians because it wasn't in Russian.
The language was set to English, so it definitely wasn't Russian.
How could it possibly be a nation state?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think for the record, I would always attribute everything to a nation state because at the end of the day, why not? Like, you can't. I mean, what else is there to attribute something to? But so they compromised an on-prem Jira server. They used an interesting technique where they essentially used, Jira scripting or Jira scriptlets or whatever to like execute code on a backend system. And then they tried to pivot from that backend system. And basically, because Cloudflare, which they do quite a bit of tooting their own horn in this blog post, but they basically say, we have zero trust, so they couldn't get anywhere. Although they also say that they tried to get to a new data center in Sao Paulo. And then just for the sake of, I don't know, the blog, they sent back all the servers that they were going to use, I guess. That was one piece in there too. So they were like...
They said they sent back every bit of hardware. Had the vendors check the hardware to see if it had been interfered with. And even if it hadn't, they said, you keep it anyway.
Right.
At which point I'm wondering, like, well, why did the hardware vendors have a whole lot of, they have a whole lot of motivation to go and check all this.
Well, and I also like to know how they did that. Like it's like the Boeing 787 MAX debacle, right? You know, at least the FAA is going to go through with a frickin' screwdriver and torsion check everything, But whenever you send a bunch of servers or whatever gear back to a vendor, like the vendor's just going to look at it and be like, yeah, we looked at it.
It booted.
Yeah, it posted. Good enough.
I want to say,
I mean,
could you post what your equipment was so we all know not to buy it for about 3 months?
Well, I was
Yeah,
going to
eBay.
say I'll take it.
eBay's
I'll
that.
take it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wait,
I'll
don't
take
plug it
a-
into my stuff, man.
Yeah, can someone like do some OSINT and figure out what the vendor is so I can go buy it on eBay for like 75% off?
Previously, possibly malware.
Previously.
Just block Sliver in your firewall. It'll
You're
be fine.
good.
Yes.
They give the IOCs. They do give the IOCs.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's one of those things. I mean, does anyone have any, hot takes on this? I mean, it seems kind of cut and dry. It's overall pretty solid.
It does, but I think the other thing to highlight is they detailed like all of the things that the threat actors were specifically searching for within Jira tickets. So again, like looking for how they're doing the vulnerability management, how they're rotating passwords, how their MFA is implemented. Mm-hmm. So they're looking for like all of these, security, inside notes for like how is security being done with this. So that's still very telling as a takeaway. So if there is I don't know if that's a hot take, but that is a very interesting thing to look at in that transparency of what are the adversaries after when they're navigating around.
Yeah, the original alert, if anyone's curious, came from once they popped the actual backend Jira server, they added one of the service accounts to a local admin group, and that's when the alert triggered, and then the incident triggered. So,
which, by the way, kudos for them, because a lot of organizations.
That's good.
Yeah.
Plus the zero trust stuff. I mean, I just kind of think they really dunk on Okta. They're like, the second time Okta got breached and we didn't roll the creds and it's their fault. It's like, okay, well you didn't roll the creds. Like, okay.
But even with that, like, take like the ego out of this. This is actually a pretty nice write-up. This is an organization that I think is writing up things correctly. It's not as bad. I don't know. Do you guys talk about the AnyDesk breach?
That's coming next.
That's next. Okay. It's going to be coming to your desk.
I had the same thought. The comparison between what we got from AnyDesk and what we.
It's night and day.
And it's just night and day.
Yeah.
I would say it's like
they're also night and day companies and what they do and like who their customers are. So that's another thing.
Very true. I mean, the other thing with the Cloudflare thing is like I found it really interesting that the nation state didn't export all of Jira. Like that would have been my move. Clearly, I'm guessing they're probably like they didn't think they were going to get caught this early.
Yeah.
But if they're a nation state, they don't believe that someone has an added to local admin group alert. Like that's like pen testing has.
Well, honestly, Corey, this has probably happened multiple times where they did that and they didn't get caught for like 6 months. Okay.
True.
So they were like, oh, this is usually no detection.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're starting to get a little jaded towards BHIS customers that somewhat have their shit together. Whereas there are lots of folks who still don't have their shit.
But aren't nation states supposed to be like the most sophisticated threat actor? Like
they're
by
supposed to be
I think that a lot of nation states tend to, do things that aren't attributable to them and are like, what everybody would do. And it works a lot of the time. So
right. I got you.
Jay, you and I have talked about this, right? Like we've talked about how when we talk to people at other firms and they're like, what's with all these companies running Symantec and garbage AV and all this stuff? And you're just like, what? Like 90% of our customers, they can't detect anything. And it's just
at all.
Like, who are these magical unicorn customers that you're getting? Right.
I know that I am blown away by the sheer amount that Cloudflare has been able to detect. I mean, I think I'm having the same thought that everybody might have had. Like, are you sure you did this? Are you sure you took you did full forensics and reimaged 4,900 systems? Is this real? I mean, it feels real, but it's just really impressive. I mean, you can see though in the timeline that like we're talking about it now, but their initial access happened I think back in November.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had some time. They went across. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so the initial probing happens around the 14th, but I think the point where they detected it around Thanksgiving. Is that it? So the 15th.
Yeah, they're calling it the Thanksgiving 2023 incident.
Okay.
So I'm assuming.
Yeah. So at what point do they detect, or at what point do they realize?
Discovery is on
23rd.
Yeah. What's that dwell time, and how far do they get? So.
Well, 14th to the 23rd. is
So
like
not even 10 days.
No, it's past that though. There's the 24th is when all the access.
24th,
is
yeah, that's what.
And they
That's
think
10 days
How many days was that?
Yeah.
How many?
10.
I'm sorry.
10.
How many days are they in? I suck at math and I wasn't paying attention.
10, and most of those didn't involve active operations. They didn't get Sliver until the 23rd or something.
And we may have an off by one error. What was that? What was that initial date?
It's
Because
the
we're all bad.
14th.
So
14th and 24th, so 11 days.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a
give or
long
take.
time.
Maybe I'm having the off by one error.
It's a long time, but they weren't actually doing anything. They were just like going in Jira and searching token.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
to be clear that like I really feel like that me and like a team of 2 other people, like our DFIR team, yes, 4,800 systems is a lot, but the cloud is big. And if we upload everything to the cloud, put it all in a big data lake and do our searches there, in 2 months, I can triage probably more than 4,800 machines. It's going to cost you some money re-imaging them. I just, if we send out 4,800 new laptops, they're re-imaged. There we go. I'm just saying, 2 months, I could do this, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I got you.
I mean, that's the question for me with the re-imaging is basically like, hey, is this the first thing I thought was like, okay, maybe these are real like cattle not pets folks. And, like they're like, yeah, we have an issue with the server. That's just fine. There's nothing persistent on that thing. We just Terraform apply and boom, new one pops up identical to the old one. And I don't mean one server, of course, like banks of them, but bunch of new ones come up. No state had to be gone and stolen. No state had to be carried. But I don't know about all of you. If anybody says, oh gosh, your laptop looks like it's failing, I got a lot of data to copy.
Yeah.
With limited, I think they have had a few like outages over the past couple months, but it hasn't been like widespread Cloudflare is screwed. Like they've actually kept services up for the most part. So I think they're kind of an industry leader when it comes to security across the board. So it makes sense, if they're the ones pushing security further as far as zero trust, hardware resistant, or phishing hardware and all that good stuff. Like, it makes sense that they're like also have their stuff together, but it's still a good. I guess any final takes on this before we move to AnyDesk and to the other side of security, like maturity?
As someone who hasn't read the article, how do we know that the threat actor doesn't have a secondary set of credentials that are valid and they just let this account burn and we're going to get another report a few months down the road?
Because they hired CrowdStrike.
They hire CrowdStrike, then they dunk on them and say, well, they didn't find anything we didn't, which I felt was classic, but also unnecessary.
What a move.
Right. But also, they rolled, not only did they reimage all 5,000 systems, they also rolled all
tokens.
So like they really went scorched earth, which I mean, again, roll curb TGT twice after any pen test.
And that gets into like, they definitely went full scorched earth on this. At least they say that they did. And once again, great job for execution. 0 points for style.
Right. Sliver and like you didn't even export all the Jira data. Come on, you could have ransomed that back. I want 2 million Jira tickets.
I like how somebody's pointing out there's weird high-pitched yelling in the background. It's like I tell people, don't worry if you hear children screaming in the background. It's just children screaming in the background.
I'm just at the carnival. It's fine.
It's fine. All right. Are we ready to get to the big one?
Yeah. Well, no, this was the big one, John. Nothing's happening with AnyDesk. It's all fine.
Nothing. By the way, I just start this section by saying AnyDesk said, we confirm the situation is under control. It's all fine. How are you doing? It's safe to use AnyDesk. Please ensure that you're using the latest version with the new code signing certificate. It's good. It's safe to use our product. That's all we have to say right now.
So, what I think is funny about this, John, is that I have set up AnyDesk for some other unrelated stuff, and a lot of firewalls and other detection.
If you're clacking, you're hacking, and I love you, but mute. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a lot of firewalls and detection products, they will actually ping on AnyDesk because a lot of attackers use AnyDesk for their, attacks, right? It could be scams. It could be, there's a lot of different scenarios, right? Where they're using these remote desktop platforms, right? Outside of what came after.
So you're saying this is a coordinated effort to go after scammers?
Yes. It's an inside job.
Oh, no. So, yeah, I mean, the details are really thin, but essentially, I mean, does anyone have an incident timeline? Basically, they rolled all the creds for consumer accounts, right? That was the first sort of canary in the gold mine. Is that accurate?
And I think they did that before they announced. Like they were rolling stuff, and there was I thought there was an outage as well.
Yeah. So step one, roll all the consumer account credentials, meaning basically they're assuming that their consumer accounts were breached.
Yeah.
And then also rolled a code signing certificate. So that's basically all we have, right? Like those two pieces of information is all we have.
There's no ransomware, they said. They didn't.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, because they stole everything, so there was nothing to ransom.
So there's a paragraph here that makes me uncomfortable. It's the 1, 2, 3, fourth one. It says, to date, God, I hate this one so much. We have no evidence that any end user devices have been affected. We can confirm the situation is under control and it's safe to use our product. But that sentence.
If they have no evidence.
Yeah.
Why did we have
that collects evidence?
The lawyers wrote that, not the incident responders.
And this gets back to, we talk to customers about, well, if we don't have logs, then we have no evidence of a breach. I just really hate that. Like,
oh, we like a VPN provider.
Well, you know that from the SolarWinds stuff, that's all you have to say, and you're not criminally liable.
Yes.
Yeah, because we didn't see it. If we didn't see it, it didn't happen, right? La 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 la.
I remember talking to a customer at one point who had never had a pen test before, and the reason they chose that they had not had one yet was they thought, we're not sure we're that great, and if we don't know about it, maybe we're not liable.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a very blissful state of being, is what that is.
Years ago, I had a customer's lawyer send that to me in an email, and I called up my customer, and I'm like, "You need a new attorney." Like,
yeah,
this is bad.
Yeah.
And I want to explain why. Like, you can have thoughts, right? But once you commit it to an email, and you're like, "Hey, how about we just go for criminally negligent?" Because there won't be any evidence of that. I'm like, except for the email you just sent me. Other than that, that was a great strategy, Cotton. So no, we've seen this through the years, but I gotta say, is this one of the worst write-ups? Like, I think this is one of the worst write-ups I've seen in a long time.
I mean, from a legal perspective, it's fantastic. It doesn't disclose any information. It doesn't confirm anything. It just says,
it confirms there was no ransomware.
It confirms there was no ransomware.
We can still access our computers. Isn't that glorious?
I mean, I will say, though, know your audience. Most of the people using AnyDesk won't even read those.
But if we read between the lines, right? Following indications of an incident on some of our systems, we conducted a security audit, found evidence of compromised production systems. So that tells me they're at the heart of the company. It's a production system. They activated a remediation and response plan using CrowdStrike. The remediation plan concluded successfully, whatever the hell that means. The relevant authorities have been notified, which means that this was big enough that they had to bring in the FBI. Okay. We have revoked all security-related certificates. Okay, that tells me that the attackers probably got security-related certificates. And that right there, like, when we're looking at this, already you're talking like the crown jewels for a software development company, right? And our systems remediated and replaced where necessary, which once again, it sounds like some of these systems were so thoroughly hacked, they nuked them from high orbit.
They got them from the hardware supplier from Cloudflare.
They got a bargain deal.
Now this is where it starts to get scary. We will be revoking the previous code signing certificate for our binary shortly, and already started replacing it with a new one. That scares the bejesus out of me because it says their code signing certificate is breached. They didn't say out of an abundance of caution. They just basically are diving right in, which once again, if we're talking about a hack that's the absolute worst it could be, it's already there. And then one of the things that they said down at the bottom, revoking all passwords and resetting all passwords, but then they say everybody should update their binaries. This screams to me of a SolarWinds style attack where they got compromised down to their code freaking signing certificates. And they're telling people to like remove previous binaries, which makes me wonder if there wasn't malware injected. But I have to assume that, right? Like as a customer, Isn't that the assumption that you have to make? Is they got compromised down to the level where people were pulling down binaries that were compromised a la SolarWinds? If that's what they're telling us to do, like, I would feel more comfortable. They said, hey, out of abundance of caution, these are the things that we are doing. And for you, as an abundance of caution, we recommend that you update to the latest version, something like that. But they aren't saying anything like that. It screams to me like this sort of short of like getting customer user IDs and passwords, which is kind of passe. Code signing certificates and binary level things that have been compromised, that just screams absolute worst case scenario. But that's, I have to assume that because they're not giving me anything else to go with.
So how many signed versions of AnyDesk are on Virus Total right now then?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
anybody got the hash? Let's go look it up.
Well, so I will say that it as it typically does, this got booted to the community to solve, and people already wrote Yara roles to find the old, not necessarily compromised, but assumed compromised binaries.
Yeah, because once again, that's what we have to assume, right?
How many people know how to run a Yara rule?
Oh, well, there's a whole nother problem.
Yeah, that's
you know what I thought was interesting is that AnyDesk is out of Florida, but their thing says it's like European, their certificate. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is weird. But the other thing about AnyDesk that kind of bothers me is they tend to be heavily used by MSPs.
Oh yes. That was the other thing.
I was going to say we should step back and talk about we've been assuming everyone knows what AnyDesk is. So for those that don't know, AnyDesk is a what are they called? RMM tools, remote
management. Yeah.
Remote something management tool. I don't know. Does anyone know what RMM actually means? Remote management. There's just two managements. Don't worry about it.
Management? Remote monitoring and management.
Okay, so this is a tool that is like LogMeIn or other similar tools.
TeamViewer.
They're basically rats. Yes, for people in Discord.
Like Kaseya. Right?
It's more like
Kaseya. Yeah. So the reason this is a oh god moment is because, like John said, these are used by scammers and you to access your sister's computer because she always gets viruses or whatever, but also used by companies that pay for remote access.
Yes, and they
use this tool
or thousands of computers
to run their SCADA systems or to run their customers patches.
The water plant with the TeamViewer.
Yeah. So
it was.
If you think essentially like the reason John's so freaked out about this is because all the people in security know that these tools get used way beyond their intended use cases and security parameters. So like AnyDesk is probably being used right now to like run patches on some remote PLC in Ukraine or something. And that's why everyone's terrified about this, because these get used everywhere to solve problems that should be solved using things like VPNs or privileged access using MFA or whatever, but instead they use AnyDesk, and that's why it's scary.
They probably use AnyDesk for like what do you call it, the PCI environment, right? So you got to go to this machines that jump into the AnyDesk.
Or like remote. It's the remote piece of it is the thing. It's like, well, we don't have direct network access, so we're going to do it over the internet.
Yeah. We have a couple of listener comments I want to bring in. Ranner said, just to play devil's advocate, still not a fan of this. If I was at AnyDesk and there was a compromise, even if there was no evidence of a certificate compromise, I would encourage the rotation of all certificates. And I agree with that, right? I would recommend the same thing, but you could do a write-up of what they did as far as the investigation, kind of what we just saw with Cloudflare. And then once again, put it in there in the context of, in an overabundance of caution, this is what we are doing. Even though at this time we haven't found any, but it's so short. There's just nothing.
It's the vibe of here's the stuff we know was compromised, and that same list is the only stuff we fixed. Yes. That is the problem. It's it's like reading between the lines. It is, we did the minimum. This was compromised, so we did this. This was compromised, so we did that. That's it. Go use AnyDesk.
And the difference
sparks. One more comment from somebody. At the end of the article, an update, cybersecurity firm ReSecurity, and this is rumor and conjecture, said it found 2 threat actors, one of whom goes by the name at an alias, Jabba, advertising a significant number of AnyDesk customer credentials for sale at exploit.in, noting it could be used for technical supporting scams and phishing.
So this is like the Stealer log thing that we always talk about, John. If I go in our tool, we have 45,000. So like the number of compromised AnyDesk accounts at any given time is a very high number. And so like a threat actor advertising this, although I will say all the creds probably got rolled, so those accounts are probably invalidated now, but this is going to be a thing with any of these RMM tools or common accounts. This is something where criminals are looking to trade in these specifically, because let's say I'm going to use AnyDesk to compromise Cloudflare. That's going to be my RMM tool instead of Sliver. I want a non-attributable account, which means the easiest way to get a paid license and non-attributable is just to steal someone else's account. So this is always going to be a criminal like wares trading situation.
Yep.
Well, what about the phishing risk? Yeah, what about the phishing? What about the phishing risk now? Recognizing that like lots of that AnyDesk is used all over the place for all kinds of things. I mean, it's the, you know, if you haven't, in a lot of ways, it's that go to my PC tool, basically, you know, from back in the day. It's the how many times could somebody get called up and said, hey, here's the headline about AnyDesk getting hacked. I'm calling from AnyDesk, and we're gonna help you roll your credentials.
Oh my god!
Yes, the consumer fraud opportunities are huge. That is terrifying.
So speaking of kind of like, is it okay if we roll into another story? I got to see if I can find it.
I like this. We're just going to follow the spirit guide.
So, all right. So there was a story of an investment firm in the UK or in Europe where
the phishing scam.
Yeah, where they used a deepfake of the entire board.
25 million after video call with deepfake CFO.
Yeah, we could share it. Yeah, so 25 million. Basically, they created an entire video conference, not just of one person asking for 25 million to be transferred. There was a number of people, and they were out of, what was it, Hong Kong. There we go. Just absolutely insane, where they did a deepfake video conference with multiple people all pushing for this person to transfer the $25 million. A multi-person. What the hell?
That is terrifying. It's like we tell people to rely on their gut instincts, right? That's security awareness training. And this is like, if your gut instincts are like, well, like 5 people are on this call, I feel like it's one of those where if it happened to you, you'd be like, there was 5 people. Like, it's legit. It wasn't just some guy calling and telling you to install AnyDesk.
If I was that guy, I might fall for the same thing, right? Like if one person's coming in, they're like, hello, John, could you transfer? Like,
unless you know the people,
conference camera, they glitch all the effing time, right?
True. Yeah, and unless you know the people specifically and have procedures, I think it's like center your security controls around like filtering this kind of stuff, like Jira or whatever.
Axe Power said, dude, the deep fake game is getting real. We had that test. We've had a couple of tests where we've gained access to video camera feeds. Like, I don't want to talk about the one that Steve's on because that's a little creepy, and we all had to step away from that one a little bit. But there are times that we gain access to conference room video cameras, right? And now all of a sudden, think about it, like, if it's a conference room, you get access to the video camera, you can now feed that through AI, and AI can match the room, match the people. Like this all of a sudden now, if we can gain access to these video camera feeds, this is probably something that needs to get kicked up in criticality, right? Or am I overthinking this?
I think it's social engineering.
So. Yeah, I think AI is going to get to a point very soon, like in the next couple of years, where it's just going to be like someone just said, you're going to be able to do this kind of thing like on your gaming card, and so it's going to be a wild ride.
I don't think there's a control you implement where you try to prevent it from happening, because the source itself doesn't really matter, like whether or not I have the camera feed from the exact thing or whatever. It's more about like having a procedure for here is the items required to send a wire transfer, and removing the someone called you from that list of things that can authorize that action.
And Kelly nailed it right on the head. She said, this is why we have written policies and procedures to follow, right? And exactly. At BHIS, we're implementing these things right now where it's like 2 or 3 persons to like verify funds transfers and all those different things. It's got to go through multiple different approvals. Then you have to go into a portal. Then there has to be 2 people sign off with both 2-factor authentication, like all of these things. And it's interesting because as we were standing it up, there were various people in the accounting department and other parts of BHIS that were like, this is insane. What is wrong with you and Erica? And we're trying to get away from the way it was, which I got to admit was a lot more fun, where people are like, "Hey, John, can I buy a guitar for a pen test?" And I'm like, "Approved."
Wait, what?
Can I go buy $1,500 of Bitcoin? Approved.
So wait, John, are you
Wait,
telling me?
I mean, this has happened only twice. Okay.
Are you telling me that I shouldn't have bought all those Amazon gift cards that you emailed me about?
No, wait, that was legit. But
that was legit. But no, that's a common fish. Is like, seriously, like almost every one of the testers has mentioned to me that they've gotten either emails or text messages saying, "Hey, this is John Strand. I need you to, do thing."
I strung one of them along. They texted me pretending to be me, and I gotta find it.
That's awesome.
But I strung them along for like 2-3 days, and I was like, "How much money do you need?" And they're like, "Well, I need to transfer $25,000 like immediately." I'm like, "Okay, cool, I'm on it. Just give me a second." And then like 2 hours later, I'd respond back with, "Hey, did you get it?" And they respond back, "No, it hasn't made it through." What was the account number again? Oh, it was this. I'm like, "Oh crap, I was off by one. I'm sorry. What's your account number again?" So I tried to get them to like shoot me an email or something to try to hunt them down. I think they got really, 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 really flustered after a while, and they just left me. But it was awesome because the whole time I was like, Erica's like, "Who the hell are you talking to?" I'm like, "Me, apparently." So
yeah,
like, it finally happened. He's lost his mind.
that happened a long time ago. That happens a long time ago.
Okay, we got.
But as far as what you were saying, as far as the whole idea of multiple paths to go ahead and make wire transfers, this is something in the financial industry that we've been trying to deal with for a long time already. And even the best policies and procedures get lost, especially when we're dealing with third parties.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. It's real tough because if you have independents that you're working with or a third party that you're working with that's doing the wire transfer, you're supposed to go ahead, you get an email from them saying, "We want to transfer this." And you come back and you say, "Okay, let me go into my files, my physical files, find out what their phone number is on file, try calling them directly. If that still doesn't sound right, then try and get in touch with them with the third way of doing it." And it sometimes doesn't work, especially in the trading world. It slows things down to the point where some people just go, "Well, screw it." And that's where you start seeing a lot of these big financial breaches.
I agree with that, but there's got to be a culture change, right? Like there's so much, like this whole entire thing is driven by egos.
It's so hard in the financial world.
I agree 100%. I agree 110%. But you've worked with these firms for a long time. We've worked with these firms for a long time. And it's absolutely 100% true. If you pretend to be the CEO or CFO and you demand something get done right now, and how dare you question my authority, they're going to do it because that pattern of behavior matches what happens in real life.
Yep.
And like, we're going to talk about it in accounting. Like if somebody calls up, like pretending to be me or Eric, and they're like, "We need this money transferred right now," it's going to be, "Well, you got to log in, got to do the factor, got to do this, got to 2 people. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call you back at the number." Like we have to start putting this stuff in place. But you're right, because the politics of it, no executive wants to go through that crap. They just don't. And they tend to resent it. They tend to get angry, and people tend to get into trouble. So it sucks because if you push back and try to do the right thing, you get screwed. And if you're this poor guy in Hong Kong that does it, now he's lost his job or something very bad has happened to him, but it's not his fault. The culture of the organization dictates that people do these things without question.
I say keep him around. He's never going to do it again.
No, agreed. But
I'm there too. Absolutely.
Now he knows.
Yeah, I have a long and fun story I like to tell sometimes about a physical pen test I did, and at the end of the test, a security guard finds me and helps me with what I'm doing, trying to break in, and because he believes my story. And my story that I like to tell here ends with, "And you can't fire that security guard. That security guard is now the greatest, is now able to pass on, hey, this is what happens if you don't check badge, check this, check that, follow our process."
Security training complete. Yeah, security trained. Done.
Yeah.
I also, just to like, there's two angles I want to go from here. One is there some kind of a market for like not terrible at security escrow companies? Like, is there like a market for this now? Because I mean, I also
there should be, right?
like on the last Darknet Diaries, he also talked about how someone like had their escrow deposit for like their house just like get stolen, and the escrow company was like, "Oh,
was that wait,
whoops."
was that the one where they contacted the escrow company and they're like, "Hey, is this legit?" And the escrow company said yes. And then they went to their attorney and they said, "Hey, attorney, this looks fishy. Is this legit?" Their attorney said yes. Then they transferred the money, and then the escrow company was basically like, "Sucks to be you."
Yeah. So I mean, basically, is there room here in the financial industry? Like, seriously, me as a consumer, I would love to do business with a company whose priority is security.
Yeah, but
none of my financial providers even support hardware two-factor. So I'm like, can we get anywhere with this?
This is it.
Like,
we need to create a compliance security framework because the world needs more for escrow companies. And
whether it's any financial company, like there is a market here. Like,
yeah, but how do you validate?
Yeah, but the escrow one is so and the escrow case is just so sad because I don't know if any of you have bought if you've bought a house. I remember, that's the first time where I'm holding a check where it's like, holy heck, if I lose this check, I'm screwed.
It's your life savings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's that life savings thing. And everyone and almost everybody gets their escrow companies basically from the
real estate agent.
From the real estate
yeah,
agent.
And then they get breached. Let's not talk about, we already did, but that
was
insurance 5 months
might
ago.
solve this. Like, John, if you and I can create that framework, like the insurance companies for the escrow agents may solve this by basically saying you're going to have to.
I want to do it
they
against
can't pay it all out.
accounting firms because the accounting firms dropped like SOC 2 type 2 audits against us, like against the whole world. It's like, I want to step squarely in their crap and basically be like, here's the security requirements for all accounting firms and escrow firms, and these are all the things you must do. And you must be tested by a validated company.
And you must have deepfake validation in your processes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, okay. The other crazy angle I want to go to, just to terrify everyone that much more. Okay, so we're talking about financial fraud. Oh, sad. Someone lost $25 million. I don't care. Let's talk about like nuclear launch codes. Okay. Like, seriously, this has to have implications beyond financial fraud. Like, if I don't know how these decisions are made to launch missiles or things, I don't know how that all works, but I'm assuming that there is an entry point for deepfakes somewhere in that ecosystem, and it's terrifying.
That's why the football, like, doing Yankee white level security clearance, which means you can walk up and touch the president. Like, that's why it's a physical suitcase, like, and it's handcuffed to somebody that's never more than like 10 steps away from the president. And you don't see a lot of people like, okay, so
this is Joe Biden. I need you to send the news.
Like nuclear launch codes and those types of things. There's every once in a while in DoD, there's like a conversation like, should we upgrade this and somehow put it into a private cloud in Amazon? And then they take that person into a room, slap them for a while, and then like, wake the F up, don't do that again. And like, I don't know what happened to me. Thank you guys. It was really weird. We about made a really big mistake. But there are literally things that are just like, no, we're going to do it old school because you got to get this crap right.
Do they still have like the looking glass airplanes for nuclear where basically the controls in the back would be able to override a launch or basically cancel a launch, like if something on the ground went wrong? Like they were just in the air 24/7 with the whole like, hey, if somebody fails to launch something because ethics, we can launch it for them, and if something gets accidentally launch initiated, we can override from the air. But
you need to have that, right? Like you absolutely have to have that.
Yeah.
It's the war game solution.
Yeah. It is not to play. Actually, it was the war game solution.
So here's the question for you all, since this is all basing on what deepfakes and AI are doing. How easy is it to defend against deepfakes for the average company?
Easy. You just said procedures that don't rely. You said
Mike,
procedures that don't
allow. Scary question. Like, that is such a scary question because right now, today, at this moment, is the worst that deepfakes are going to be moving forward into the future. Right now, they're the worst that they're going to be. They're just going to get better and better and better and better and better.
Oh,
as
I get
time
what you're
goes
saying.
on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you
Well,
meant we're
If
going to get better
If we're
in
having
security.
if we're having this point right now, and we're at the bottom of how good they are, and they're this effective, like we're in like this is about to get insane.
I
Taking
mean,
a step back from Corey's doom and gloom, we're all going to die in a nuclear holocaust. I mean, there are already deep fakes that have been attempted. Like there was just in the Vermont primary, there was a phone campaign with a deep fake to try and convince Biden voters that he wasn't on the ballot, right? There's a write-in, campaign to get him elected, right? And there was a deepfake campaign to try and convince people not to go out to the polls. So I imagine that's going to be a thing between now and November. So good time.
And now let's add on a new vector onto it that we haven't necessarily talked about or seen directly yet.
Because that's just what we need. Another
SIM
new
swapping.
vector.
Somebody going ahead and
damn
snagging
it,
the
Mike.
phone on top of it all.
Well, okay. So again, here's and this, okay, let's take this back to like a security thing that companies can actually benefit from. So nowadays, when we do social engineering, like we've been doing it for all of our continuous penetration testing customers, we call the help desk. Hey, this is Bob, the Exchange admin or whatever. I need to reset my credentials. No matter what happens in between that phone call and the credential being reset, if we get it reset, we say it was possible to reset it. It doesn't matter what validation you have in process. And, it doesn't matter if you have, you have to know the mother's maiden name and the answer to the, meaning of life or whatever. It's just the help desk shouldn't be able to click a button that says remove all MFA factors. Like it's the same thing with sending financial transactions. It's not about, they were susceptible to social engineering. They should have trusted. They shouldn't have, it was Joe Biden and Trump on the same Zoom. I should have listened. It's like basically the process and procedure, like Kelly said, has to prevent social engineering wholesale. So the deepfake quality and all that stuff shouldn't matter because there shouldn't be a button that says launch nukes on the Okta page or whatever. Like that shouldn't exist. And if a random analyst can transfer $25 million without, even if he thinks it's a really good idea, that is the security team's job to make it so that isn't possible. That's like my take on it. It's like, it's all about policies and procedures, and it's all about enforcing them like hard. Like you can't do it. It's not that you, if you really think it's a good idea, you can just check bypass security check or whatever. Like it's about not letting people do it.
I'll give you a segue. None of that matters if you have 0 days in your VPN that that don't matter.
You mean end days? These are end days.
End days. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's segue. So the government says you have to unplug your VPNs, or patch them.
Just one brand,
or patch them. You have two choices: unplug or patch.
Well, the patch process apparently involves taking them offline and reflashing them, and basically re-putting out. Like, did you read what you have to do?
It's pretty significant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
I had somebody who's affected by this ask me over the weekend. They're like, "So what happened?" I was like, "Oh Lord, man, you're not VPNing in for a while. It's gonna be a bit."
I forgot who I saw about this earlier today was the patching that they did for it when they were confirming the patching, and it's been announced that there is a security hole that they found in the patch already.
No.
And they're not revealing, they're not releasing any other information for their 90 days as per their contract says, but they found something else in the new patch.
But that's what happens, Jay. We've talked about this in the past. Like you remember with like Flash and Adobe and like Java, like whenever people started finding vulnerabilities, it just basically was like a beacon to people to go find more vulnerabilities in these things, right?
You found one, you're about to find 5 more. And
I did a whole webcast about this last week, and there's a whole history section in the webcast about all of the big attacks. WannaCry, pick your malware. Almost all of them were like a month after the patch. Like seriously, this is a great, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's going to be impacts, but as far as good bang for the buck, just saying unplug it and you have to do it. And it also takes the blame off the security team. They're like, listen, the government said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the government said, what am I going to do?
There's something, I guess, for CISA, right? Like, my feeling on like CISA, like these are the most important patches, right? I hate that because all patches are important.
CISA says security harder.
Yeah, security harder.
Security
But if
harder.
CISA's like, hey, these are the patches you should install, it's easy for people to be like, hey, y'all, we got to do it because the government's telling us to do it. So here we go.
I don't know. I was just blown away with the CISA is ordering federal agencies to disconnect VPNs. I think at that point I just hadn't paid attention to CISA having that kind of authority. I thought they were like, okay, here's our advice. Here's our advice. It was kind of like more like NIST giving you guidance on hardening things and so on. But I was blown away that I remember a long time ago watching cases where federal judges were taking agencies off the internet until they could get their act together.
Are you talking about Judge Lampert in the Department of Interior?
I am. Like, but the idea that there's an executive branch agency that can actually say you have to take all these VPNs offline, you have to patch them, you have to roll credentials and so on. I mean, I was kind of impressed. I was also just blown away. I didn't realize we could do that.
Well, all you have to do is make a deepfake call to the head of CISA and ask for an exemption, and they will grant one.
Jen would totally make that exception sarcastically, he says. But I also, Jay, the thing that's interesting about that is that the individual departments like MRM, MMS, like, just kind of going to Department of Interior and all those, Department of Revenue and all those, they want that. And the reason why they want that is anytime they try to push that out to all their sub departments, there's always pushback, right? So this way it allows them to kind of say, well, CISA told us to, and it kills all that political scuttlebutt across the entire board, which is what they needed.
So this comment is too good to like sweep under the rug. Sparky TN says, CISA says we can't use our VPN. Let's use AnyDesk.
I saw that. That was good. Yeah. No, I mean, John, I hadn't realized that, but that's a really, really good point because, like we have clients that are small. We have clients that are very, very big, just like you. And it's the, and you're talking to the CISO and they all thought that they were going to have, they all thought when they first came into the job, unlimited power, they're going to come in and, but one of them's a friend of mine, and when he said we're going to make all the passwords across the domain 15 characters or longer, he took shit across a very large hospital system for, I don't know, 2 years. Just like it took him forever to get that. And once he got it, he was still getting just like the users were just like, oh my God, you made us have to do this.
Isn't that
if somebody
can like offload it? Wouldn't you want that as a CEO, CTO?
Absolutely.
The government.
I mean, I guess.
Cameron,
sorry.
You were saying something, I think, Cameron?
I was saying, for those who haven't read the article, what would happen if you didn't patch these VPNs? What were the end days that they found?
One was an RCE that allowed you to run elevated commands, and the other one was account. Like the way I read it was stolen credentials that were tied to the domain, because they're telling everybody also to reset all their AD passwords. I don't know if that was by the end of the week also, but yeah, it was pretty much like
surprise internal pen test conditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the thing about CISA,
a server-side request forgery also.
I thought the question that Cameron asked and the question for the CEOs, CTOs, all of those. One of the things that I'm getting better at as I'm getting older is arguing with companies and just being like, well, that's fine. I mean, even at BHIS with risk rating, it's like, we gave it to you in a report. We said it's critical. If you disagree with it, then you can take it to your internal risk register and you can drop it to low. That's fine. I sent the report to you. You can change it to whatever you want it to be. You can say it's purple. I honestly don't care. But I want you to know that it doesn't matter my opinion, doesn't matter your opinion, because the hackers will show us the way. Because they always
not if CISA ruins it. I will say
not
also
if CISA ruins it.
Well,
curse you,
also,
CISA.
I'm not
curse
sure.
you! I was going to ransomware my way into 5 companies, but
see,
I don't think they have the authority to make them do it. I think they make a recommendation, right? And then you, at your own risk to your superiors, if you don't do it, that's a different story. Like, it's a recommendation, even though they're saying do it. I don't really think they have the authority. And I just remember my time at NASA, like HQ would say all kinds of stuff, and then the rest of the centers would be like, maybe.
See, I think
that's what I thought Cameron's question meant. Actually, at first, was not like what did you get, but like rather, if the agencies don't patch, does CISA have any enforcement authority?
Do
what
we
can
know?
they do?
Do we actually know what the power of the emergency directives is? I guess maybe we should get someone from CISA on the show.
We should. I don't know if they'll come on. I think
it would be
listen. They probably are like, we're sick of telling everyone they need to update Windows too. Like
yeah.
But okay, the other thing about CISA that's fun is they know everyone's dirty laundry, right? Because they've done all these Shodan pen tests of everyone, so they know like y'all are screwed. Like they know they're not just making this up, and they know how much of an impact this is going to have. So this is like where they're kind of well positioned to be like, hey, not only do we know that this is really high severity and that you aren't patching, but we also know that you only use this for X, Y, or Z thing in your environment. So they actually have, for most government agencies, CISA has like real data to go on for saying like you don't patch, or maybe you do, but it's too late, or whatever. They actually know.
But that gets back to what Jay was talking about, Judge Lamperth hiring a bunch of hackers to break into the Department of Interior for the Cobell versus Department of Interior case. The judge literally hired hackers to see how far they could get in. And one of those was a very good friend, like brother for Jay and I. And they got real far, like crazy far. And the judge like unilaterally shut down everything because of the security risks. But that judge got into a lot of trouble and was actually removed from the case. So the problem with that is it's an absolutely great idea. It should be something that, the government, I honestly think the government should just have red teams that are constantly trying to break into the government. And when they get in, they shut crap down until stuff gets fixed. Like that's what I think the government should be doing. They're not. And they're always afraid to, because it's always about, are we overstepping our bounds by doing this? But it would be great to see CISA like, hey, your charter, red team everything that's .gov, just go to town on it. And then just literally like just start raking these different agencies over the coals and shutting them down.
I'd like to opt out of that pen test, please.
Is this our new CPT?
I'd like to express my do not sign onto that one, because that is the largest scope in the world and also the most likely to get people knocking on your door.
But here's the deal: as long as like the government agencies and like the C CISOs and those different agencies are like, hey, we're coming. When? We're not going to tell you. What are you going to find? Not going to say anything. But we're coming.
Maybe we already there.
Just knowing that something is going to happen or could happen, like not just a theoretical, hey, there might be German hackers or Russian hackers or Iranian hackers, whatever. But like, no, they're coming for you, will absolutely change behaviors.
Yeah. So Atakar Claire, I'm sorry, I just butchered your name. Pasted like the actual section whatever of the U.S. code that, so. For anyone, I guess it seems like it has more teeth than Derek at least implied. I don't know.
Derek.
Well, Derek's like, yeah, I worked at NASA. We just ignored all the patch. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, even if it has teeth, what's going to have to happen? It's not like it's a criminal code, right?
But you can take this section, you can take this code back all the way to the OMB Circular A130, where it's like, hey, you got to do all. Everyone ignored it. There's a big difference between something being written. All right, we're talking about government stuff. This could get dangerous.
Yeah, we should
wrap it up.
Pivot.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I greatly appreciate it. Jay, Mike, Alex, thank you very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. And Jay, I believe that we're in the process of bringing a new course onto our catalog here at some point in the future. Correct?
We are. We're gonna do a Kubernetes attack and defense class. And I'm really excited about it. I actually had a demo that I prepped for today. So instead, I'm now gonna do it for you as a webinar or a short antidotes or shorts or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring out the crooked hand, everybody. It's time for me. I've been traveling nonstop for like 3 days. Travel's been hell, and then I taught today. I'm gonna go lay down and just kind of enjoy the spin of the earth for a while. Take care, everybody.
Rock.